Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about collective impact, one of my favorite topics. John Kania and Mark Kramer wrote about it in the Stanford Social Innovation Review in 2011. I was very fortunate almost 13 years ago now, to have worked on a initiative that had the elements of collective impact. They come by a lot of different models. The one we were using was called Full Service Community Schools. And once I read the 2011 article, absolutely, I saw that our initiative had those 5 elements. They call it the 5 conditions for collective impact. And I am so sure that is why our initiative was successful and continues to be. And so today I'd want to share with you, through a case study, the 5 conditions of collective impact. I'll first list the 5 conditions. They are having a common agenda, having shared measurement systems, and I'll describe to you what that means in a bit, having mutually reinforcing activities, having continuous communication, and to have backbone support. The case study actually will help you better understand what those 5 conditions really mean. So the first one is a common agenda. We set out and we just spoke with lots and lots of different people and organizations, parents, students, community members, neighbors, city council members, the county, and we just asked them, how can we work better together to help the outcomes of the children that we are trying to serve? And at first it was a question about academic and behavioral outcomes. But as we chatted with different stakeholders, we started to hear other things that were important to them. Health outcomes, parenting skills, being able to just get up and be ready for school mentally and physically, right? Having that motivation to go to school. And so then it translated into peer interactions. And so slowly we saw how all of these experiences in a young person's life are so integrally connected, and that the 10 different organizations serving 10 different needs, if we didn't come together and come up with a shared agenda, a shared outcome, we were missing an opportunity. So we partnered with actually the county and held some what I call town hall days, but really they were medium-sized meetings with about 20 people, and we came up with a mission on, if we were to all come together, what our shared mission would be. And so to me that was we started off on the right foot. We didn't jump right into creating a shared agenda. I know some groups, they identify their 10 people, come together, write the agenda, and then the rest of the community feels a little bit in the dark. For us, we did it a little reverse. We went to the community first, did a lot of listening sessions, brought that knowledge back, and then with a smaller group of about 20 people or so, came up with, what does this mean if we were to design a shared common mission? The second condition for collective impact is having a shared measurement system. I can't tell you how important this is. When you bring together 100 different stakeholders, or in some cases just 3, 4, or 5, you're going to find that each organization, each individual, each team measures success in their own way. Whether you are an after-school serving organization, or an immunization clinic, or an organization working with youth who have gone through trauma, your measurement is going to be different because you each have different goals. But remember, you had that shared common agenda that you set early on. And so for us, I'm just going to high level it for this particular vlog, is we really wanted to understand the academic, the wellness, which included enrichment experiences, as well as health outcomes. Those were the top 3 goals we wanted to work on and see improvement on. There are lots of other subjects that were related to that: parental involvement, safety in our communities, mental health, but they all kind of tucked underneath our 2 big umbrellas of academics and wellness. And so each partner went back and looked at their measurements and reframed it a little bit so that they could too report on their improvements in those 2 areas. This helped me a lot. In my first year, we did not know of this concept of shared measurement system, and so I had every single organization email me their quarterly or mid-year or year-end reports. And receiving 100 emails from one organizations on their reporting metrics was overwhelming. And I was unable to carve out the time needed to truly synthesize all of that information. And so we went back to the drawing board and we said, this is all really great information. I can kind of pick and choose different sets of data that are interesting. However, we need a shared measurement system. So we eventually got there, and it's been great to see positive results on both the academic and the wellness side. One quick win that I'd like to share is the safety was an issue for the communities. There were youth who were breaking into homes between the hours of 2:30 and 4. It was right after school. They were mostly just playing on the video game systems in these homes. And occasionally they would take the systems and try to sell them or use them themselves. But after we worked with all the youth organizations and started to bring more programming into the schools, formerly there was virtually no after-school programs that youth were engaged in. We were able to get about 75% of youth in some sort of after-school enrichment activity. And the police chief actually came out and said, without this coordinated youth enrichment system, we would not have seen the dramatic drop in after-school youth crime. Juvenile crime. So that was a huge win for us as an entire community. All right, so condition number 3 is having mutually reinforcing activities. This is where every organization, there's a bit of a give and take, but also each person, an organization, business, their involvement includes a clear benefit. And this isn't simply just they get a piece of the grant money, but why someone is at the table is clearly communicated, and we have honest conversations about that. So the example I like to give is we have meetings where it depends on the service area. But for example, the health clinic that we opened, all of the different health providers, dental, mental health, trauma-informed group therapy, doctors, immunization clinic, we would meet on a regular basis along with the school counseling office staff, and really talk about what are the needs of the students, what are we seeing in the surveys, what are we hearing from youth. And rather than just fighting over money and access to youth, the conversations were all really honest. And I watched some organizations say, I'm just going to step away from this conversation because I can see there are other organizations that would be better suited to meet this need. And I would hear these examples over and over and over, where some organizations would step up while others would step back. But there was always this respect of, let's ensure that what we are doing is mutually reinforcing. And they really weren't taking advantage of each other. And we're very appreciative of each other. The fourth one is continuous communication. As I kind of have alluded to, we had different sets of regular ongoing meetings. We also had a newsletter for parents and for all of the partners that we had. We also worked closely with media and kept them regularly updated. The great thing about that was a lot of funders would hear about us and actually extend an invitation to us before we even started to apply to them. But really, continuous communication is truly about the team that's working on this initiative. And so for us, we had an anchor group, the core team of about 8 organizations or 8 stakeholders. So it included a city and a county representative as well, who really were ensuring and holding the torch for this initiative, making sure that it was taken care of, making sure that all of these mutually reinforcing activities were happening, that we were all using a shared measurement system, and we're there for each other to tackle some of the tough questions and decisions we had to make. Finally, closely related to this close communication is, continuous communication is having a backbone support organization. This means that you have an individual within an organization tasked with being responsible for the project management of this initiative and making sure that it keeps moving forward, that when it hits bumps in the roads, that the right people are at the table asking the right questions. They facilitate the entire process, and they ensure that each of these conditions are able to move forward in a productive way. Sometimes there's a shared leadership model that can get a little messy because people aren't sure who to talk to or who's leading the charge. I have found it is helpful to have at least one person. I know in some of the reading it'll say one organization, but I think it's really important to have one go-to person, at least for questions and communication and responses. In my case, it was me, and I partnered, really, it was the superintendent and I. However, he was the superintendent of schools, so he couldn't take every single communication that came across the community schools initiative. So I really became that go-to person. And I'm really thankful that the superintendent, his name is Keith Lester, really trusted me to work with him to lead this initiative. So those are the 5 conditions of collective impact through the examples that I experienced. There are many more nuances. I could probably do a post on every single condition. Maybe that is something I'll do in the future, or if you have questions about any particular condition or want me to dive in deeper, just let me know and I'll try to deliver on that. So thanks again for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day.